Hi, Virgo. You've been waiting. Not desperately, no. You've been doing your life, doing your thing, keeping it moving. But quietly, in the back of your mind, there's been this hum, this low, persistent frequency that you can't quite tune out. And it sounds a lot like a name, or maybe it sounds like a question you haven't let yourself ask out loud yet. What if they're thinking about you right now? Let's sit with that for a second. Because what's coming through today isn't chaos, it's not confusion. What's building on the other side of this silence, and I want you to hear this, clearly feels like pressure. The kind that builds before someone finally says the thing they've been rehearsing in their head for weeks, maybe longer. So, let's talk about what that might actually look like. And more importantly, let's talk about what it means for you, the silence you've been living in. Here's the thing about silence between two people who have history, it's never actually quiet. Real silence, the kind between strangers on a bus that's empty, but the silence between two people who once knew each other's rhythms, that's loud. That's almost deafening. You've probably felt it, the way a text message that never came still somehow takes up space in your day, the way you catch yourself wondering, not if they think about you, but when and how often. Um, and you've been navigating that, mostly gracefully, sometimes not, and that's allowed. But here's what the energy around this connection might be suggesting today. The silence could be shifting. Not because of anything you did or didn't do, not because the universe finally decided to reward your patience, but because they might be reaching a point internally where holding it in is costing them more than speaking up. And that cost, it's been accumulating. This reflection invites you to consider, what would it feel like if the silence broke, not with a dramatic declaration, but with something small and honest, a message, a reach, something that says, I've been thinking, how would you receive that? Would you be ready, or would part of you still be bracing for disappointment? What's possibly happening on their end? Let's be real for a moment. And I mean clinically, psychologically real, not romantic fantasy. When someone goes quiet after something intense, it's rarely because they stopped caring. More often, it's because caring became overwhelming and they didn't have the architecture to hold it. Some people shut down not out of coldness, but out of overload. Their nervous system hits a threshold, and the most instinctive move is retreat, pull back, regroup, figure out what's true before saying anything. And that can look from the outside like indifference. It can feel like abandonment, but the internal reality might be something entirely different. What's possibly happening with your person right now could be a kind of reckoning. A moment where they're sitting with the weight of everything unsaid and starting to feel the specific exhaustion that comes from carrying unspoken things. That exhaustion, that bone level tiredness of a feeling you won't let out. They might be there. Mm. And when people hit that point, when the cost of silence starts to outweigh the risk of vulnerability, they often begin to move. Slowly at first. Maybe they revisit old conversations. Maybe they draft something and delete it 3 times. Maybe they ask a mutual friend a casual question that isn't really casual at all. The energy right now suggests they could be in that in between space, not fully committed to speaking yet, but no longer fully committed to staying quiet either. And that in between, that's where movement begins. This reflection invites you to consider if they came to you with honesty, raw and maybe imperfect honesty, would you be able to meet them there? Or is there still a wall in you that needs to come down first? The part nobody talks about, your walls. Let's pivot, because this reading isn't just about them. It's about you and the version of you who would receive whatever's coming. Here's something that might land uncomfortably. Sometimes we say we want someone to open up, to speak, to finally be honest. And then when they do, or when it looks like they might, we freeze, we protect, we test. We make them prove it before we allow ourselves to feel it. That's not dysfunction. That's intelligence that learned the hard way, and it makes complete sense. But it's worth asking, and asking honestly whether the walls you've built are still serving you or whether they've started to keep out things you actually want in. Because protection and punishment can look identical from the outside, and sometimes we can't tell which one we're doing until we look directly at it. The energy here suggests there might be a version of you that's ready, that's been ready, and a smaller, louder version that's still insisting on more proof, more evidence, more certainty before it allows itself to soften. Um, Both of those parts are valid, but only one of them moves you forward. What this moment might be asking gently, not forcefully, is whether you can begin to distinguish between discernment and defensiveness, between healthy caution and preemptive self protection that closes doors before they open. That distinction, it could change everything about how you receive what's coming, what putting it all on the table might actually look like. I want to deconstruct this phrase for a second because putting it all on the table sounds dramatic. It sounds like a grand confession scene in a film music, swelling eye contact, perfect words. And maybe that's what you've been imagining. But in real life, in actual human relationships, it often looks smaller. And somehow, because of that, more real. It might look like a message that starts with, I've been thinking about you. Just that. No paragraphs, no performance, just an admission that the distance has been felt. It might look like them asking to talk, not explaining why, just asking. It might look like a comment on something you posted that lingers a half second longer than casual. It might look like them mentioning your name in a conversation they didn't have to include you in. The energy building around this connection suggests that whatever comes, if it comes, it might arrive quietly. And the question is whether you'll recognize it for what it could be, or whether you'll be so primed for the dramatic version that you miss the real one entirely. Because honesty, real honesty, rarely arrives in a perfectly constructed speech. It arrives in a breath someone finally lets out. And if you've been waiting for something cinematic, it might be worth adjusting your expectations to something more human. This reflection invites you to consider, what if the thing you've been waiting for is already starting, just quieter than you expected? Would you be the kind of person who notices the quiet, or do you need the loudness to feel convinced? The practical layer, what you might do with this. Okay, let's get actionable, because energy and insight are only useful when they translate into something real. If you're sensing a shift in your gut, in the way this connection feels lately, in the frequency of your own thoughts about this person, here's what might be worth doing. Not because you have to, but because agency is always more powerful than waiting. First, get honest with yourself about what you actually want, not what you'd accept, not what you'd settle for if they showed up imperfectly, what you actually want in clear, non negotiable terms. Because if they do reach out, you'll need to know your own center. You'll need to know what a yes looks like and what a no feels like in your body. Without that clarity, you'll be making decisions from reaction instead of intention. And reactive decisions in love, especially love with history, can pull you backward very fast. Uh, Second, consider releasing the outcome, not detaching from what you want. No, keep wanting what you want, but release the grip on the timeline, on the how, on whether it matches the version in your head. Because attachment to a specific outcome tends to make us misread signals, overinterpret gestures, and attribute meaning where there might not be any yet. Release the grip, keep the desire. Those two things can coexist. And third, keep building the version of your life that doesn't require this connection to be complete. Not because you're moving on or giving up, but because the most attractive and grounded version of you is the one who isn't waiting, who is living full throttle and would welcome this connection into a life already in motion, not as a rescue from one that's been paused. That version of you is the one they're most likely to want to reach. And more importantly, is the one you most want to be, the deeper truth this moment is holding. Let's go underneath it all for a moment. Connections like this, the ones that hold this kind of charge, this kind of weight, they're rarely just about two people deciding to talk or not talk. They're mirrors. They show us where we've grown, where we haven't, where we still have beliefs about love that might be quietly limiting us. Um, and what this particular moment might be offering you beneath the anticipation, beneath the hope, beneath even the fear, is a chance to meet yourself, to see what you're made of when the thing you want is close but not certain, to discover whether you can hold your own center while also remaining open, to practice in real time the kind of emotional maturity that doesn't arrive through reading about it, but through living it. This connection might move forward. It might deepen into something you've been sensing for a long time as possible. Or it might clarify gently that what you've been holding on to is more idea than reality, and that reality might actually be asking you to redirect that energy somewhere extraordinary. Either way, you are not powerless in this. You are not a passenger. You are not someone things happen to. The power is yours. It always has been. Okay. So take a moment wherever you are to just breathe. Let what landed land. Let what needs to be questioned stay open. You don't have to have this figured out today. You don't have to know what to do next, or what to say if they reach out, or how to feel about all of this perfectly. You just have to stay honest with them eventually. But with yourself right now, the silence might be breaking, or it might hold a little longer. But either way, you are more equipped to navigate this than you think you are, more capable of receiving love without losing yourself, more capable of discerning what's real without building a fortress around your heart. Take what resonates, softly release the rest, trust yourself. Virgo, comment questions. Drop in the comments. Are you the one holding the silence, or are you the one waiting for it to break? I'd love to know where you're sitting with this. And second, what's the one thing you wish this person understood about where you've been? Let it out. This space is safe. See you in the next one. Take care of yourself genuinely. Bye.